Hello, this is Ted from Dementia Talks, and today we're kind of going to go back to the beginning and talk about the early signs of onset dementia. The early signs of onset dementia are at best subtle. They can easily be put off to little things, being a little bit of aging creeping in. They can be put off to what everybody forgets, or I was distracted. Any of those kind of common excuses, but they really, when you add them all up, might constitute some of the symptoms of early onset dementia. So let's kind of cover what that means first, and then we'll talk about 10 things that constitute, in varying degrees, early onset dementia. First is the obvious one, which is memory problems, particularly remembering recent events. Okay, so that's called cognitive memory. The second one is increased confusion. So, for example, if you're making a recipe, if you have to constantly go back to it and go over it again, or if you're confused about which things to do, and those are signs of confusion, and it could apply to lots of different things: your hobby, working on the car, working around the house. So there are lots of things that can be indications of increased confusion. The next one is an obvious one, which is reduced concentration. This is one that hit me when I first started realizing I had memory problems. It was not only a combination of things that I couldn't remember, but it was the fact that it was harder to concentrate, which for me was something that was natural. So I felt it. Other people may not have noticed it, but I felt it. And a lot of these things are things that the individual senses, but other people won't. So just to be clear, these things are very subtle, and they are things that you notice personally, not necessarily by your loved ones or friends or what have you. The next one may be changes in your personal behavior. You're not doing the things that you used to like to do, or it can be you're become too focused on doing one thing. If anything, you could be locked into just being hyper focused, right? And those things can be signs. So, and then the last one is the kind of the loss of ability to do everyday tasks. Sometimes people fail to recognize these symptoms, and quite frankly, again, like I said, it's subtle. It's something that the individual notices, not necessarily your friends. If it's really noticeable by your loved one or a person close to you, then it's really gone further than just early onset. The next thing is I want to walk through the 10 warning signs of dementia. The first one is dementia and memory loss. So obviously memory loss is one of the key ingredients with dementia, and you will recognize it yourself, and others may recognize it too, because it can result in missed appointments and things like that. It can be missed, not doing things, not showing up for things when you said you were going to. Um, there is one additional wrinkle. If you're losing long-term memories of events time ago, that is a sign of Alzheimer's, not necessarily a sign of other types of dementia. It's kind of particular to Alzheimer's. It affects both short and long term. The next one that is number 2 is dementia, and can create difficulty in completing tasks. It's easy to get distracted. You may forget to serve part of a meal. You set everything out, and next thing you finish dinner, and it's like, oh, I forgot to bring the salad out, right? Or you forget steps in preparing the meal, right? So you end up with something that tastes not so good, or doesn't cook right. Those are examples of difficulty in completing the task. Number 3 is disorientation. So people with dementia have difficulty finding familiar places, or they can feel confused about where they are. And so sometimes they can actually revert to feelings and thoughts back in their prior life. I don't want to spend a lot of time on that one because, quite frankly, I haven't had that much of disorientation, so I can't really add more color to what it means. But I think it kind of speaks for itself. Number 4 is about language and communications problems. This is one that is subtle, and your friends may not pick up on it, but you can notice it, and you can notice that it's difficult in finding words. And a lot of people put that off to aging, and there is some impact of that being a form of aging, but quite frankly, don't discount it as just being aging. We all do it as we get older, but that does not mean that it's not part of early onset dementia. Number 5 is changes in abstract thinking. This is an important one because it can get into the fact of dealing with numbers and problem solving, or dealing with problems. And this is one of the reasons why, once you've been diagnosed with dementia, it's important to change who takes charge of the finances and to take steps to change things in terms of financial control early on in the process. We'll go into that in another podcast and show, but just remember that finances really need to be changed, and that's because of the difficulty of dealing with abstract thinking. The next one is dementia, and is poor judgment. This one's kind of, I don't want to say, one that you get caught in, right? So you may have an impulse, and next thing you know, you're buying something off of TV, or of course there's good old Amazon, and you can find your impulses getting out of control there. It also affects simple things like maybe you don't wear the right clothing to go out in cold weather. There's lots of different types of subtle differences around poor judgment. It's one that you have to be careful of, but also others can. This is one where others may observe more about you than you observe about yourself, because obviously if you knew it, you wouldn't do it. The next one is about spatial skills. Now, this one is where driving comes into play. I will tell you that I am the slowest and most careful driver that is out there. I don't drive very much, but I can tell you that, like, when I am coming up on the back of another car, what have you, I have to give myself more than adequate braking time because it's harder for me to judge spatial distances. It also comes into play with just general directions, right? How far things are, and you can easily underestimate how long it takes to get someplace, what have you. The number 8 is misplacing things. Now, this is one where I am sure that I have heard lots of people say, "Oh, that's just aging. Everybody does it, what have you." But when you start leaving your wallet in the refrigerator or your keys on top of some cabinet where they don't belong, or I can think of a dozen different things, but when you start putting things in the wrong places, that's when you start noticing really misplacing things have gone too far. Again, subtle, may easily be excused to aging, but it is one of the warning signs of early onset dementia as well. Number 9 is changes in mood and personality and behavior changes. It's easy for people with dementia to get sad, be frustrated with themselves. They may have rapid mood swings. They may be argumentative. They may be very critical of themselves. Confusion can set in and for limited periods of time, and then that creates more concern on your part if those things happen. You can find yourself being suspicious or withdrawn. This is where Robin Williams kind of lost it, because he had no idea that dementia was coming on. He knew he had Parkinson's, but Parkinson's with dementia is the same thing as Lewy body. And in fact, Lewy body can ultimately have Parkinson's added to it later, just when each one occurs. So he had been diagnosed with Parkinson's, but he also had these other things going on in his mind, and that's where he lost it. So it's very serious, very real. Depression can set in at a clinical stage, obviously, in Robin Williams' case, and it can be totally debilitating. There can be situations where people can become more outgoing. So it's the deviation from normal, which is really what we're looking at. So number 10, the last one, is loss of initiative. Dementia can cause a person to become apathetic, to stop enjoying the activities that they normally like. There are a number of clues to this happening, and can be noticed by their loved ones and also by themselves. They just don't have that quote unquote energy to want to go do the things that they used to like to do. Okay, so those are the 10 signs. Now the question comes as to are there other things that can cause these types of symptoms? And the answer is absolutely yes. Medication can cause some of these types of symptoms. Strokes can cause it. Depression can cause it. Long-term alcohol consumption can cause it. Infections, hormonal disorders, even a brain tumor can cause all these types of things. But almost all of those, as if you go through the list I just raised, are reasons you should contact your doctor. So whether or not you think it's some other type of symptom or caused by something else, or whether it's dementia, and people are really just um, they don't like the term dementia to be saddled with them, and it is we put such a stigma on it that unfortunately too many people don't go out and get the proper diagnosis. In terms of diagnosis, a doctor needs to look at all of your medical history and do a physical exam. There are laboratory testing, there's cognitive testing, and certainly the cognitive is far more than the remember 3 words and draw a clock and count some numbers or what have you. It's the standard cognitive test that's issued is very, very poor and needs to be expanded. There is a cognitive test, which is that starts with that basic test, available on the Alzheimer's National Alzheimer's Association. I'll put the link in the show notes, and when this is put up on Dementia Talks and Wandering Light, but I will tell you right now that is not a comprehensive test. It is just a test that's a little bit better than what you do at the doctor's office and needs to be administered by someone else. You can't administrate it to yourself. You have to have someone else do it for you or to you. And then, so advanced cognitive testing is really the key, which has to be done by a qualified neurologist. And then there is brain imaging, whether it's a PET scan or an MRI. The reason for this is there is always some form of structural change to the brain when dementia is present. So it may be subtle. It may show up as very small amounts of change or problems, but that is where it starts. There needs to be a physical evidence of the form of dementia. Now, the hard part is determining then what type of dementia. Last is a psychiatric assessment, and also just plain talking to your doctor. Psychiatrists or psychologists can help you work through the symptoms of anxiety and delusions and other problems. Clearly, if, for example, Robin, I'm sorry for keep going back to it, but it's just such a tragic loss. If Robin Williams would have had that kind of help, he would still be with us now. So it's just so important to be open and honest and not shy away from getting the help that you need, and truly finding out if you have early onset dementia. Now, this is not something that it can be once done and decided. You can't just have a review with your doctor. You pass the test, so to speak. He says you don't have dementia, and that's it forever. You literally, if it continues to, these warning signs continue to accrue, you need to go back to your doctor after a period of time and re-look at that, or go to another doctor and get a second opinion. So those are the 10 signs, and kind of the next steps that you do with those signs. I hope this helps. I wanted to go back and and highlight where people start from. That's Patsy. She's anyway. So I'm going to sign off before she totally adds to the video or adds to the show. But again, I hope you have a great day, and I hope this is helpful. Again, this is Ted from Dementia Talks and Wandering Light, wishing you a great, great day.